Let's bring in Cam Inman. He's our 95.7 The Game 49er insider, also Bay Area News Group. What's up, Cam? Yesterday we were a little worried about McCaffrey. I guess some things have changed down there. Who practiced, who didn't?
They are currently practicing in a very rare rainstorm on their field, and Christian McCaffrey is one of them, and he's looking fine. He was. It was interesting because we went out there about 45 minutes ago, and as the team was stretching and getting warmed up, he was on the side loosening up, which usually indicates that he might just work out on the side for the day. But then as team drills started and running back drills started, he was right in the thick of everything, so that's a really good sign. But the bad sign is I did not see number 19 out there, which would be the wide back, Deebo Samuel.
And Cam, just to follow up on that, Deebo was limited yesterday with the quad. So him not practicing, if that is in fact how it turns out, that would be deemed to be a turn in the wrong direction, correct?
I would assume so. I mean, they listed him yesterday as limited. We were out on the field, and he was there coming off. It was in between their walkthrough and their regular session, and he and McCaffrey were both out there for the walkthrough, and then they both exited the field yesterday. Today, we don't see him at all. But again, that was just the first 30 minutes of media access, so he could come out later. But I don't know why they would if it's cold, raining, and he's got a quad injury that maybe he needs treatment on. So it's Deebo, and you just never know whether he's a guy that's played hurt a lot in these last couple of years, especially with the stakes high. But maybe they're just taking it cautious with him because of the field conditions. I don't know.
Cam Inman joining us on 95.7 The Game. He's our Odyssey 49er insider. JD and I spent a good portion of the show talking about, all right, if they don't have Mitchell or McCaffrey, and then we were thinking, well, maybe Deebo gets more carries than normal, like they used him last year. Now we're going to have to recalibrate. But in any event, let's just say Mitchell and Deebo Samuel don't play. Where do those touches go?
Well, it's kind of funny. I look at this kind of as a spice rack, and you got to figure out what the right recipe is you want. And if McCaffrey's your main ingredient that you need, then you can go to him. Apparently, if he's healthy as he looks. And then it's kind of like, well, do you need a dash of some Jordan Mason? Do you give Ty Davis-Price some carries for the first time, basically since the home opener? My guess, Matt, is that they would probably go with Jordan Mason as the number 2. I mean, they could go Tevin Coleman. He came through for him off the practice squad when they were in Carolina and scored 2 touchdowns. He's got the veteran experience, so you could do that if you're not totally comfortable with Mason, which probably would be the case if you didn't have McCaffrey up. But it looks like McCaffrey will be up, and then it'll be just sorted out through those guys. It's just kind of, to me, like one of the side parts of this whole backfield discussion is we're starting to see what Jordan Mason can be, and we saw it in training camp that here's this undrafted kid who's really like he's quick, but he's kind of built pretty well. And Ty Davis-Price, the 3rd round pick, just hasn't really advanced too much. And part of it was he had a high ankle sprain in the home opener, but then he just he's been inactive I think 7 games, and he said he's just been learning how to be a pro and learning the ropes. We talked to him yesterday at his locker, but I didn't get a sense that he would be a guy that's ready to step into a bigger role.
Cam, how do you view this matchup, 49ers and Dolphins, as far as just being a test for the Niners and all the storylines with Mike McDaniel coming back and obviously some of the comments both ways about players that are no longer with the Niners and now with the Dolphins? Just what do you think of this one? This is a juicy one.
Oh, I think it's fascinating in terms of it's, a couple times a year during the NFL season, you get this high-powered offense against the number 1 defense, right? And I think the defense is playing so well right now and is pretty well at full strength, especially if they get Armstead back this week. And D'Amico knows what Mike McDaniel likes to do. As much as everybody will say McDaniel knows the Niners' tendencies, he knows all the personnel, well, D'Amico does. He knows how the system, obviously, these guys have faced it in practice for years. So they're going to be prepared for it. And I'm sure the biggest issue is how is the Niner defense going to be able to stop Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle's speed? And maybe a wet field can slow them down a little bit and ruin some of their cuts or whatever. But to me, that's really more fascinating than the whole sideshow of McDaniel's return and Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. I mean, they were great 49ers, all of them, and they all like used this as a stepping stone onto their next level of their career, their next fortunes. So I don't think anybody has anything bad or ill will against any of those guys, and I don't think the Niners will be emotional about it at all. I mean, the Miami guys might just coming back here and might be more fired up. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what kind of reception the home crowd gives them, especially Mostert. I mean, the guy, ran for 220 and 4 touchdowns in an NFC Championship game. That's big part of this franchise's lore forever, and he can come back forever and be celebrated for that. So I wonder how people look at him. The fact that he left in free agency, the Niners didn't give him a big deal. I don't think anybody will hold that against him. And then Wilson was such a great pro for all his years here, and really beloved. And then it didn't work out for him being, a number 3 running back behind McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. And people can second guess it, but Mitchell was coming back healthy, and Jeff Wilson Jr. had been number 3 and would have been relegated to special teams duties.
Cam Inman joining us on 95.7 The Game. Cam, does anything like this come into play if you're Kyle Shanahan or his coaching staff? Let's say McCaffrey and Debo are both kind of banged up, and you look at the schedule, and you don't like to say this, but this is kind of the one game the 49ers could afford to lose because it's an AFC team. Does that go into their thinking at all in terms of maybe availability for a McCaffrey or a Debo Samuel?
Yeah, it's a really good question because, like you said, that if it comes down to playoff tiebreakers, a conference win doesn't mean as much. But I mean, go back to last year, and they were playing in Cincinnati and Tennessee this time of year, and they really wanted to win those games. Losing in Tennessee didn't cripple their playoff hopes at all. I think you just kind of you got to see how the player feels and just kind of gauge it that way. These guys, they know their bodies. They're not new to the NFL, so I think that helps matters. Then you just look at the rest of the depth chart and what your game plan will be. So the answer to the question, I don't know.
That's fair. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, well, it should be a fun game, a little bit different this weekend at Levi Stadium, so we'll catch up with you next week, Cam.
Another home game, the 3-game homestand. We're almost halfway through it.
That's true. Yeah. All right.
And you know what? The Dolphins are going on a 3-game road trip. This is the number 1 of 3 for them.
Who do they have after this?
You know what? I think they have do they have the Chargers?
Yeah, so they'll probably stay out west.
You would think so, but I don't know if Stephen Ross has money to burn like that anymore. Maybe he does.
I don't know. It's a conversation for another time. All right, buddy. All right, Cam. Good talking to you, buddy.
Hey, bye. Bye-bye.
Cam.